Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja, coming up in the next 30 minutes. Russia denies stalling Ukraine peace talks, says a lot of work on possible deal is on behind closed doors. On the question of Vatican hosting these talks, Kremlin says no decision made yet on venue. President Donald Trump unveils plans for $175 billion Golden Dome defense shield for United States. The system aims to counter next-generation aerial threats to be operational by the end of Trump's term in office. And India's diplomatic outreach on Operation Sindoor begins to expose Pak-backed terror before the world. First delegation leaves for Japan. So a lot of work on a possible Ukraine peace deal is going on behind closed doors. This was stated by Kremlin on Wednesday with the assertion that no decision had been made on a venue for Russia-Ukraine peace talks. Kremlin's reaction came after Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni said on Tuesday that Pope Leo had confirmed to her his willingness to host in the Vatican the next round of negotiations to try to end the Russia-Ukraine conflict. However, the Vatican has not commented on the possibility so far. Trump said on Monday that it would be great for Russia and Ukraine to hold ceasefire talks at the Vatican, saying it would add extra significance to the proceedings. Earlier on Tuesday, the United Kingdom and Europe announced major sanctions against Russia on Tuesday without waiting for Washington to join them. Both the countries said that their new measures would zero in on Moscow's shadow fleet of oil tankers and financial firms that have helped it avoid the impact of other sanctions imposed over the conflict. The sanctions target entities supporting Russia's military machine, energy exports and information war, as well as financial institutions helping to fund Putin's offensive in Ukraine. The British measures alone impact around 100 entities and individuals. Trump had indicated on Monday, following his call with Putin, that the US was not ready to join European sanctions efforts. Now, responding to the new sanctions, Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova accused Europe of trying to prevent the resumption of direct dialogue, adding that Russia never responds to ultimatums.
Immediately after the talks between Russian and Ukrainian delegations in Istanbul, Zelensky and his European buddies spoke in favor of strengthening of the anti-Russian sanctions. Yet again, they started to sing the old song about impossibility to trust Russia, which should be punished, as they put it, for the failure to obey ultimatum demand about 30-day ceasefire, which Kiev regime and its European sponsors tried to present as a certain step towards settlement. Russia never responds to ultimatums.
Однако у этих всех деятелей ничего не вышло.
Now, amid rising pressure on Israel to allow humanitarian aid in Gaza, the United Arab Emirates, the UAE, has said that it has reached an agreement with Israel to allow the delivery of aid. The agreement was announced last night following a phone call between the UAE Foreign Minister Sheikh Abdullah bin Zayed Al Nahyan and his Israeli counterpart Gideon Saar. According to a statement on UAE's Ministry of Foreign Affairs website, the aid will address the food needs of approximately 15,000 civilians in the Gaza Strip in the initial phase. It added that the aid also includes essential supplies to support bakeries and critical items for infant care, while ensuring a continuous supply to meet the ongoing needs of civilians. However, Israel has not yet commented on the agreement. Israeli officials earlier informed that 93 trucks entered Gaza on Tuesday. Earlier, the United Nations said on Tuesday that no aid has yet been distributed in the Gaza Strip, a day after Israel allowed limited humanitarian deliveries to resume after an 11-week blockade. UN spokesperson Stephanie Dujarric said 4 trucks of baby food were dropped off on the Palestinian side of the border on Monday and that a few dozen trucks with other basic items entered Gaza on Tuesday. UN humanitarian chief Tom Fletcher said that 14,000 babies would die in Gaza in the next 48 hours if aid supplies do not reach them. Meanwhile, the UK has paused trade negotiations with Israel over the country's aid blockade in Gaza. It comes after the UN warned that 14,000 babies could die in the next 48 hours if the blockade of the enclave continues. British Foreign Secretary David Lammy said that the threat of starvation is hanging over hundreds of thousands of civilians in Gaza. Addressing MPs, Lammy said that the UK is suspending negotiations with the Israeli government on a new free trade agreement and is summoning the Israeli ambassador to the UK.
I'm announcing that we have suspended negotiations with this Israeli government on a new free trade agreement. We will be reviewing cooperation with them under the 2030 bilateral roadmap. The Netanyahu's government's actions have made this necessary. Madam Deputy Speaker, today, my honourable friend, the Minister for the Middle East, is summoning the Israeli ambassador to the Foreign Office to convey this message.
US President Donald Trump unveiled a $175 billion Golden Dome missile defense shield on Tuesday, naming Space Force General Michael Gwitlein to lead the project. Trump says the system, aimed at countering next-generation aerial threats for the United States, will be operational by the end of his term.
US President Donald Trump has laid out their clearest plan yet for the Golden Dome missile defense program designed to protect the US from the threat of foreign missile attack. Speaking from the White House on Tuesday, Trump said he had officially selected an architecture for the system. He said that the system involving hundreds of satellites is designed to take down hypersonic missiles, ballistic missiles, and advanced cruise missiles. Trump added that Canada has expressed interest in joining the effort.
This design for the Golden Dome will integrate with our existing defense capabilities and should be fully operational before the end of my term. So we'll have it done in about 3 years. Once fully constructed, the Golden Dome will be capable of intercepting missiles even if they are launched from other sides of the world and even if they are launched from space. I'm also pleased to report that the One Big Beautiful Bill will include $25 billion for the Golden Dome to help construction get underway. That's the initial sort of a down deposit. And we have probably, you're talking about, General, we're talking about $175 billion total cost of this when it's completed.
The Golden Dome idea was inspired by Israel's land-based Iron Dome defense shield that protects it from missiles and rockets. Trump's Golden Dome is much more extensive, including a massive array of surveillance satellites and a separate fleet of attacking satellites that would shoot down offensive missiles soon after liftoff. An initial sum of $25 billion has been earmarked in a new budget bill, although the government has estimated it will end up costing much more than that over decades. The initiative clearly faces political and financial hurdles with scrutiny over the bidding process and concerns over SpaceX's role. Bureau Report, DD India.
And going back to our top story of the Russia-Ukraine conflict now, well, a lot of work on possible Ukraine peace deal is going on behind closed doors. This is what Kremlin said, adding that no decision on the venue of the talks has been made yet. Meanwhile, European leaders have agreed to increase pressure on Russia through further sanctions after Donald Trump briefed them on his call with Vladimir Putin. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz said. Now, DW's Thomas Sparrow joins me with more from Berlin. Hi, Thomas. Now, considering that Russian president has been unfazed by the earlier sanctions, how confident are European leaders that the fresh set of sanctions against Russia will have an effect?
Well, this is the 17th sanctions package, 17. So this gives you a clear idea that as far as European leaders are concerned, this is definitely something with which they can put pressure on Russian leader Vladimir Putin, and B, it's also their preferred response to Russia's actions in Ukraine. So from a European Union perspective, they certainly do believe that sanctions are having an impact. But you mentioned an important point, because there is a discussion here in Europe. It's not a new discussion, but it is certainly a discussion that has intensified in recent days and in recent weeks, and that's what kind of political impact these sanctions might have. Because Vladimir Putin has continued with his war efforts in Ukraine in recent months, and that has meant that the sanctions that were in place before from the European Union have not necessarily affected Vladimir Putin's resolve in Ukraine. So there are different views on whether these sanctions that are implemented, especially also this 17th round of sanctions, do have an impact. From the European Union perspective, they have above all an economic impact on Russia. But there are questions, if you discuss here in Europe, about what kind of political impact that might have ultimately when it comes to making sure that the war in Ukraine stops.
Okay, Thomas, if you could also explain to us, what are the main obstacles that have so far prevented a ceasefire agreement between the two sides?
Essentially, the main obstacle is when that ceasefire should be implemented, whereas the European Union believes that a ceasefire should predate any political discussions on ending the war. This is not necessarily the way Russia views it. If you look how analysts are suggesting here in Europe, they say that from a Russian perspective, Russia would first like to sit down at the same table with other parties involved and then have a ceasefire put in place. Part of the analysis points to the fact that Russia may fear that if a ceasefire is put in place before these negotiations, that could basically give time to Ukraine to rearm and also its European partners. This is part of the analysis that is being made here by European analysts. But the main question, the main issue is, when exactly should a ceasefire be put in place? Before negotiations or as a result of negotiations?
Okay. And how do European leaders view the discussions between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin?
Positively and cautiously, because on the one hand, they do understand that the United States plays and will play a very important role in any kind of peace negotiations. And as such, it's important to have that channel of communication between the United States and Russia. However, where European leaders have been a little bit more critical is about the content specifically of those negotiations, of those discussions, because they see that sometimes the US president has been, in their view, siding with Ukraine more than siding with Russia. And just as a reminder, it's important that from a European perspective, Europe has been siding with Ukraine from the beginning. So sometimes they see that the US administration has, in their view, been siding with Russia too much. So there is where the differences are. So positive on the one hand, because they keep open those channels of communication, but cautious on the other hand, specifically when it comes to content.
Okay, thank you very much, Thomas, for all those updates. Thomas Sparrow reporting from DW Berlin. Moving on back to Asia now, a suicide car bomb rammed into a military-run school bus in the restive southwestern Pakistan's Balochistan, killing at least 5 people, including 3 children, and injuring 38 others. Authorities said that the attack took place in Balochistan province's Kuzdar district when the bus was taking children to school. Security forces rushed to the scene and cordoned off the area soon after the incident. Meanwhile, India has rejected the baseless allegations made by Pakistan regarding Indian involvement with the Kuzdar blast. In response to media queries regarding the same, spokesperson of the Indian Ministry of External Affairs, Randhir Jaiswal, said, and I quote him here, India rejects the baseless allegations made by Pakistan regarding Indian involvement with the incident in Kuzdar earlier today. India condoles the loss of lives in all such incidents. However, in order to divert attention from its reputation as the global epicenter of terrorism and to hide its own gross failings, it has become second nature of Pakistan to blame India for all its internal issues. This attempt to hoodwink the world is doomed to fail. You're watching DD India Live, still to come on the show. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to virtually inaugurate over 100 railway stations nationwide on Thursday. In central Indian state of Chhattisgarh, 26 Naxals neutralized in an encounter with security forces. And And India's powerful narratives are in the spotlight at the 78th Cannes Film Festival. We get you an exclusive interaction with the film Tanvi the Great's cast.
What made India's Operation Sindoor a strategic masterstroke? Why did a 72-hour air blitz shift global power equations? And how did Pakistan's prized US and Chinese defense technology crumble overnight? What does this mean for the myth of Chinese military supremacy? And from electronic dominance of battlefield precision, Operation Sindoor has redrawn the map of deterrence. We decode the numbers, the silence of superpowers, and the rise of India as a credible 21st century military power. Catch it all this Wednesday at 8 PM IST only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Tanvi Taneja. After a befitting reply to Pakistan's aggression with the successful Operation Sindoor launched in the wake of the dastardly Pahalgam terror attack, India has now begun its diplomatic outreach to further expose Pakistan, which has been sponsoring terrorism and promoting it as its state policy. Out of the 7 multi-party delegations formed to reach out to the international community on Pakistan's nefarious design and India's successful anti-terror operation, the first delegation embarked on its journey today. The team, led by Janata Dal United leader Sanjay Jha, is the first to leave. The delegation will travel to Indonesia, Malaysia, the Republic of Korea, Japan and Singapore. The next to leave will be the delegation led by Shiv Sena MP Shrikant Shinde. This team will travel to the UAE, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Sierra Leone and Liberia. Another 5 delegations will also begin their tour in the coming days. The delegations will visit a total of 32 countries till the 5th of next month to present India's firm stand against Pakistan-sponsored terrorism. As part of the Indian diplomatic outreach, the Indian delegation visiting the UAE will leave later today. DD India's Vinod Kumar has filed this report from Dubai.
The delegation to the United Arab Emirates will start their campaign on May 21st onwards. The group is led by Member of Parliament Shrikant Shinde and 7 other MPs, which include Bansiri Swaraj, E.T. Mohammad Bashir, Adul Garg, Dr. Sasmit Patra, Manan Kumar Mishra, along with former Minister of State S.S. Ahluwalia and former senior diplomat Sujan Chinoy. The delegation's 2-day visit will begin with high-level engagements in Abu Dhabi on Thursday. Confirmed meetings include interaction with His Excellency Sheikh Nahyan Mubarak Al Nahyan, Minister of Tolerance and Coexistence, followed by discussions at the UAE Federal National Council with Dr. Ali Al Nuwami and members of the Council's key committee. They are also scheduled to meet with officials from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and National Media Office. A media interaction with the newspaper National is expected later in the day, followed by a meeting with the strategic political affairs analyst Amjad Taha. A key highlight of the visit will be the delegation's outreach to the Indian community, scheduled at the Indian Embassy's auditorium in Abu Dhabi. On Friday, the group will visit the Anwar Gargash Diplomatic Academy for discussions with Director General Nikolai Mladinov, and in Dubai, the delegation will participate in policy dialogue hosted by the Fikr Institute and is expected to give interviews to media houses including Gulf News and Khaleej Times. The team will depart early Saturday morning to Kinshasa, continuing India's extensive global engagement. This is Vinod Kumar for DD India.
In a significant nationwide outreach effort, a Tiranga Yatra is being held in various parts of India to honour the courage and sacrifice of the armed forces following the successful Operation Sindoor in response to the horrific Pahalgam terror attack. In Nagaur city of Rajasthan, Tiranga Yatra was organised where people praised the bravery of the army by holding tricolour in their hands. They also raised slogans of Bharat Mata and praised the steps taken by the army to end terrorism. The operation was a testament of valour of the Indian Army. Govardhan railway station in Mathura is ready to serve passengers with developed infrastructure and facilities. People of Braj expressed their immense pleasure as the station has been refurbished by the authorities, keeping it up to date. The common area, the refreshment room, ticket counter and waiting area have been refurbished as per international standards. Mathura is a famous travel destination for many, hence the redevelopment marks a significant change in the traveller's experience. India is set to embark on an ambitious development program for its mega railway infrastructure under Amrit Bharat Yojana. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will virtually inaugurate over 100 railway stations nationwide from the northwest Indian city of Bikaner on Thursday. Spread in 86 districts across 18 states and union territories, the upgraded railway stations will feature state-of-the-art infrastructure and facilities offering world-class travel experience for passengers. In Chhattisgarh, security forces have neutralized 27 dreaded Maoists in an encounter in Abujmed area of Narayanpur district on Wednesday morning. The operation by the District Reserve Guard is being carried out in the 4 districts of Narayanpur, Dantewada, Bijapur and Kondagaon. It was based on information that a senior Naxal leader was hiding in a specific area in Abujmed. DRG forces have recovered all bodies and seized arms and ammunition. One Jawan was also martyred in the gunfight. This news comes less than a month after security forces undertook a major anti-Naxal operation codenamed Black Forest in and around Karegutalu Hills on Chhattisgarh-Telangana border that killed 31 Naxals. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has termed the elimination of Naxals or left-wing extremists as a remarkable success. In a social media post on X, Prime Minister Modi said, and I quote him, "Proud of our forces for this remarkable success, our government is committed to eliminating the menace of Maoism and ensuring a life of peace and progress for our people." Unquote. Earlier, Home Minister Amit Shah also termed it a landmark achievement in the battle to eliminate Naxalism from the country. In a tweet, he said, and I quote him, "Today, in an operation in Narayanpur, Chhattisgarh, our security forces neutralized 27 dreaded Maoists, including Nambala Keshav Rao alias Basavaraju, the General Secretary of CPI Maoist, topmost leader and the backbone of the Naxal movement. This is the first time in 3 decades of Bharat's battle against Naxalism that a General Secretary ranked leader has been neutralized by our forces. I applaud our brave security forces and agencies for this major breakthrough. I'm also glad to share that after the completion of Operation Black Forest, 54 Naxalites have been arrested and 84 have surrendered in Chhattisgarh, Telangana and Maharashtra. The Modi government is resolved to eliminate Naxalism before the 31st of March 2026. National award-winning actress and producer Pallavi Joshi continues to bring powerful narratives to the big screen. She's currently at the Cannes Film Festival representing her upcoming film Tanvi the Great, directed by Anupam Kher. DD India's Jaya Sinha spoke to her about her Cannes debut.
Festival, and I'm joined by a powerhouse performer with me, Pallavi Joshi. Welcome to Cannes, welcome to DD India. Tell me, how is the experience here at Cannes? And we see a lot of Indian films making waves at Cannes right now.
It's a very palpable atmosphere. It's great being here. And the best thing about any festival, and especially Cannes, is that the vibe is so wonderful. You know, you just find cinema, creativity, art everywhere.
You're here with a very beautiful story, Tanvi the Great. Tell us about that.
So Tanvi the Great is a very special film. It was made with a lot of heart. Anupamji is directing after 2 decades almost.
You're coming on screen with back-to-back powerful roles. And what's so something special about right now that you are choosing the best of the scripts? They are getting critics, they're getting great love from critics and audience and box office numbers also.
Well, the box office numbers is a new thing, but I've always been, gravitating towards more powerful roles. I always wanted to do something which has a little substance, in which I can say something, I can make a statement, or the project says something.
You've been very close to DD audiences and you're seeing the mic here. How is you've seen over the years any nostalgic moments related to DD, or you still remember? Come back.
I miss DD. I call them the good old days of Doordarshan, It was before all the private channels came and then took over, and then the weeklies suddenly transformed into dailies with a story which has no end, no middle. The story just keeps going. Doordarshan Days time, we had makers like Ramesh Sippy, we had Sudhir Mishra, we had Shyam Benegal, we had Govind Nilani. Some amazing work was being done on television. But I really hope that the Doordarshan time, good old weeklies come back and we do some quality work again.
Okay. Finale question, here at the Cannes or any other world film festival, you've been visiting a lot of film festivals lately. How was the experience and how Indian cinema is making its mark all over the world?
I'm so glad that India is finally, finding its spot under the sun. We have great stories to tell. And we have such a massive, rich cultural history that we don't even need to look out anywhere. We can tell our own stories. And they're so beautiful. And we are now starting to tap back into our own resources, and we are going back our Indic way. And I think that's what the world is loving. And that's why India is finding its spot again.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for talking to us. Definitely, we have a lot of stories to tell, and we are doing it right now. Indian cinema is making waves, not even only at Cannes, but around the world, and we continue to do so. With camera person Sumit, this is Jaya Sinha reporting for DD India from Cannes.
And that's all for this edition of DD India Live. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on our different social media handles at DD India Live. And you can also download our DD India mobile app for quick news and updates on the go. You can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from all of us here in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.